when I was starting to figure out masturbation, which I didn't figure out what it was even called until I looked in one of my sister's nursing books. But
Mm-hmm.
when I figured out what it was, I realized that I couldn't really talk to many of my friends about it. My friends were like primarily girls, and they seemed to either not know about it or they were ashamed of it. And so I'm wondering if, I don't know, if I wanted to prevent that amongst other women, how could I bring up masturbation so that it's normalized like it is with males?
Gosh, I, that is such a good point. And I think it just takes women's voices. And we do see this more and more like in the media. I remember like the first Friends episode back in the 90s that mentioned masturbation, or even Seinfeld, right? With Elaine who masturbated, right? It was like the first time they weren't even saying the words, but it was clear what they were talking about, master of your own domain, et cetera. And Elaine was part of that, right, as a female character. And so the more we normalize it just kind of in the culture, the more that women are willing to speak up about it. I mean, for example, I don't love sharing my own personal stories around my sexuality, but there's some that I intentionally share. Like the story I just told you about how I masturbated as a young girl is one I intentionally share because I don't need to feel embarrassed about that. I don't need to be ashamed about that. And hopefully, in my doing that and being willing to put myself out there a little bit vulnerably in that regard, it helps other women also find their voice. So I do think that generationally, we're seeing more of that. The younger kind of you get, the millennials, they're probably a little bit better at normalizing that, talking about it like it's no big deal. But it's still very much a taboo topic. It really is.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because I was trying to plan where to have this talk to, because for some reason, I still just can't talk about it around my sister. Like I can talk about it around my friends, around my boyfriend now, but even around my sister, I'm just still pretty weird about it because it was never talked about in my household. And so there's still that hang up. And I was known as the innocent golden child as a kid too. So it's
Mm.
like, oh, I don't want to be tarnished by like telling them about it, and my curiosity about it. So I'm still having to try to get past that.